We all know about, or at least a good amount of us know about what vaccines are and how they're helpful. And from what I believe, almost every single one of you received vaccines either when you were an infant and or when you were 11 years old. First implemented in 1776, the effects that they have had amongst each and every one of us have been easily noticeable over time. The constant improvements made for vaccines up to today's date have also introduced safe and innovative ways for humans to remain stable. Likewise, the Centers for Disease and Control and Prevention have also studied and tested many possible ways to improve vaccine treatments, just so anti-vaxxers can stop whining about certain problems that they feel are necessary to talk about. Health and medical scholars have described vaccination as the top 10 achievements of public health in the 20th century, though opposition to vaccination has existed as long as vaccination itself. Historically, it has been known that vaccines have been opposed for religious, philosophical, and political reasons since the beginning of their implementation. In the mid-1800s, widespread smallpox vaccination began following Edward Jenner's cowpox experiments, in which he showed that he could protect a child from smallpox if he infected him or her with the lymph from a cowpox blister. Jenner's ideas were admired heavily for this time, however they were met with immediate public criticism. The rationale for his criticism varied, and included sanitary, religious, scientific, and political objections. This found forms of what one would call today vaccination to be detrimental for one's health and unorthodox to the traditional ways of healing. The Vaccination Act of 1853 ordered mandatory vaccination for infants up to 3 months old, and the Act of 1867 extended this age requirement to 14 years, adding penalties for vaccine refusal. The laws were met with immediate resistance from citizens who demanded the right to control their bodies and those of their children. However, in 1855, Massachusetts passed the first U.S. state law mandating vaccinations in school for children, followed by New York in 1862, Connecticut in 1872, Indiana in 1881, and Arkansas in 1882. The Anti-Vaccination League and Anti-Compulsory Vaccination League formed in response to mandatory laws, and numerous anti-vaccination journals sprang up. These particular leagues are similar to organizations such as the National Vaccine Information Center of today's time and are growing in numbers mainly due to hysteria and forums produced on social media. The anti-vaccine movement platform has developed through popular accusations made by celebrities such as Jenny McCarthy and Jim Carrey. With these particular icons, the anti-vax stupidity is spreading like measles outbreaks that are currently happening. The discussion over whether parents should vaccinate their children or not has gained momentum in the United States, making concerns both at local and national levels. However, the main question to ask is, to what extent have vaccines created a heavy debate over personal and critical health issues? Although the anti-vaxxers have gained momentum recently due to public media and such, I believe, and according to many other sources too, this heavy debate is being won by the pro-vaccination community because of constant use of scientific data, the constant change in innovations to better vaccines and their policies, and certain outbreaks of eradicated diseases that remain present with signs pointing towards the anti-vaxxers. Personally, I find this debate completely stupid. In abstract, I believe this hysteria that parents have created has begun to tarnish the underappreciated medical works that they could provide their children with. While doing my research, I also found it much more difficult to get information on why vaccines are bad, rather than why they're good. The pro-vaccination side shows a much more credible aspect to their sources and information toward why vaccines are good. Parents across the nation who were previously against vaccines are now suddenly starting to switch sides. Voices for Vaccines has been known as a prominent source for parents to speak on their previous experience as anti-vaxxers. Karen Christie, a common activist on this site, shared her story. Explaining it in detail on how she changed her mind, she states, "Last December, the birth of our third child. When I go to the NICU to nurse my new baby, I look around at these tiny babies, some of them no bigger than a Barbie doll, and I was in awe of how science has advanced to where micropremies now have a shot in life. How a simple antibiotic spared my baby from becoming very sick or even dying. Then it hit me that the same could be said for vaccines. I quickly tried to push that thought away, but I couldn't escape that little epiphany. But how could I suddenly consider vaccinating?" Not only did she explain her sort of epiphany that she had of vaccines, she also described a source that caused her to change her mind. Many anti-vaxxers will still admit that vaccines have been helpful in the past due to a vast variety of sources and outcomes. However, a large platform of their movement is based on population-based statistics and not scientific research. By posting these statistics and making accusations on social media, parents aim to convince their audience that their vaccinators are the wrongdoers. In April this year, Facebook announced it was adopting new policies that crack down on misinformation given by anti-vaxxers such as Larry Cook, founder of the Stop Mandatory Vaccination movement. Oh, and get this. A large philosophical value given from an anti-vax perspective is that vaccines are unnatural and natural immunity is much more effective. One way to prove that this is wrong is by simply showing the numbers. According to the CDC, 880 cases of measles were confirmed across 24 states between January 1st and May 17th of this year. This has been the highest rate for measles since 1994. But wait, weren't measles marked as eradicated? How can one claim that this natural immunity is stronger when a wiped out disease coincidentally returns right when parents stop vaccinating their children? Still not convinced this is reliable? Okay, then here we go. The movement to discredit pro-vaccine doctors is on the rise despite an increase in measles where the anti-vax movement is strongest. According to Dr. Monique Teo, who is a pro-vax, she received over 100 one-star ratings from people who commented hateful things on her Facebook page. But turns out, none of these people were in fact patients, but none other than anti-vax activists. According to the Boston Globe, a heavy strategy used by anti-vaxxers is rating on the social media accounts of pro-vax doctors of their work. They do this because they want to convince others to join the anti-vax train, since parents usually look at reviews first to see whether a doctor's work is safe and reliable. But is their cause very reliable? Where are the facts? When will their use as ridicule come to an end? Vaccines are used to protect people. As said by 95% of Americans, vaccinations are helpful in keeping our country untroubled. But what is mainly troubling for all of us is the non-reliant information given by anti-vaxxers in order for the anti-vax movement to gain momentum. In order for them to gain momentum, they're going to need more facts, those of which the pro-vaxxers continue to develop. I also want to touch on the fact that developers and lawmakers in this time of dilemma are always working to better vaccines for public safety. One vaccine ingredient that has been studied specifically is thimerosal, a mercury-based preservative used to prevent contamination of multi-dose vials of vaccines. Research shows that thimerosal does not contain ASD, or autism. In fact, a 2004 scientific external review by the IOM concluded that the evidence favors rejection of a causal relationship between thimerosal-containing vaccines and autism. Since 2003, there have been 9 CDC-funded or conducted studies that have found no link between thimerosal-containing vaccines and ASD, as well as no link between the measles, mumps, and rubella vaccine and ASD in children. The debate over vaccines has become a national headline, and that is because parents are now presuming to believe that certain vaccines cause autism. So in response to that, scientists and developers worked to modify this hysteria. Thimerosal was thus removed or reduced to trace amounts in all vaccines for children except for some flu vaccines. This was done as part of a broader national effort to reduce all types of mercury exposure in children before studies were conducted that thimerosal was harmful. This development shows that the openness the pro-vaxxers have in creating new ways to keep patients safe. But what is not surprising is the fact that after refurbishments were conducted, other vaccines were then accused of containing ingredients that supposedly cause autism. Who made these claims? Oh, who do you think? The ignorance and arrogance of the anti-vaxxers blatantly criticizes the hard work done by developers. Changes in policy have made it clear, though, that these types of vaccinations cannot go unopposed, for religious or philosophical reasons. In 3 counties of Maine, numerous diagnoses of whooping cough were reported, which added Maine as the worst rate of whooping cough patients in the United States. But Maine has a vaccine opt-out rate that is 3 times higher than the national average for students entering kindergarten, and the state ranks 7th in the country for the rate of non-medical exemptions taken among school-age children. School children who claimed a non-medical exemption prior to the law taking effect will be allowed to attend school if their parent or guardian provides a written statement by law from a healthcare professional indicating that they've been informed of the risks of refusing immunization. This allows parents to be more careful with their children instead of careless. By not vaccinating their children, other students will be at risk of contracting certain diseases. Likewise, this law will help promote the use of vaccines because parents will be prohibited from using faulty excuses to have their kid opt out of immunizations. By that notion, these policies and innovations help increase the ballot for the pro-vax side because they continue to keep children in a much safer environment. As I've said before, anti-vaxxers, and I mean no bias when I say this, have created a second coming of old diseases. 4 main diseases, mumps, measles, whooping cough, and chickenpox, that have either been notably eradicated or somewhat disappeared, are starting to re-emerge in local communities. But the main reason that these are re-emerging is because of the celebrities and popular icons posting hate towards vaccines. Back in 2008, Jenny McCarthy, an actress and model, with the help of Oprah Winfrey's television show, lied about vaccines and created a hysteria that shocked the world. On her show, she blatantly stated, "People are dying from vaccines. Evan, my son, died in front of me for 2 minutes. You ask any mother in the autism community if we'll take the flu, the measles over autism any day of the week." I think we need to wake up and stop hurting our kids. By using an emotional appeal to our audience, she promotes what seems to be false information in order to promote her cause. However, by specifically stating that she would rather have her child have measles than autism, she's permitting a horrible cause to her fans to not vaccinate their children. Her cause is primary reason as to why children are so ever lately being diagnosed with measles across 24 states. Although at the same time, there are people aiming to fight against these effects. Abigail Zuger of the New York Times defends vaccination by incorporating the main causes for why parents are so frightened by vaccines and how this fear leads into consequences. Simply, she states, people are slowly picking apart at the safety net that protected their own childhoods, prompted by a well-intentioned mixture of arrogance, ignorance, and confusion. It is that parents are alarmed by the hubbub and prefer to play it safe, but winding up defining safe in exactly the wrong way. In some communities, non-vaccination rates have hit the double digits, well into the danger zone. Since parents can so easily be convinced by popular stance such as this one, the constant spreading of claims by their confused selves creates a whole controversy over what's right or wrong. It is common for anti-vaxxers to be grouped in communities that usually try to convince their loved ones and friends to follow the same beliefs once they or a family member has just given birth. Jenny McCarthy, along with other celebrities, has espoused her anti-vaccination position because she believes vaccines are full of toxins and cause autism. And still being an activist on it, she has created a wave of people to join her cause, which is mainly in retrospect a cause to acquire past diseases, the anti-vax movement. Any vaccine can cause side effects. It's common nature. However, one must look forward in the long run to notice that they are more beneficial than not receiving them at a young age. With the heavy debate over whether vaccines can cause autism, it is very hard to argue against it because of the lack of evidence. The autism hysteria emerged randomly through various communities that have already been against vaccines in general. Their words hit the spotlight once popular icons got a hold of this information, in which they spread it with no reliable sources to back their claims. Vaccines help maintain a stable society and safe environment for our developing world. Most childhood vaccines are 90 to 99% effective in preventing disease. According to A Shot at Life, a United Nations Foundation partner organization, vaccines save 2.5 million children from preventable diseases every year, which calculates to roughly 285 children saved per hour. Scientific research in the end trumps statistical analysis. Both at a national and local scale, the pro-vaxxers still remain prominent in this debate over the health issues vaccines may hold. Their continuity of using scientific fact to prove their claims and their constant change and innovations to better vaccines and policies have helped their cause remain valid, while the anti-vaxxers are continually retreating our nation's progress in eradicating troubled diseases.